that should be running. All right. Sorry about that. Start in just 1 second. Yeah, so we are on round 3 of the 2023 NSC. I am just going to load the settings here. We have Trichomic Central C and Hunter B.
Would you like a voice over the karaoke style montage?
And
First off, let's go get most of it. So we can get those ones
there. Let's get that loaded. This round is sponsored in honor of the Illinois High School Scholastic Bowl Coaches Association. So thank you for their sponsorship. Let's do a quick buzzer check and then we can get started. Yep. Okay. Is everyone ready?
Yep.
All right. Here we go with toss number 1. This quantity in a varactor diode varies with the applied reverse bias voltage, since this quantity varies inversely with depletion region thickness. An analogy between mechanical and electrical systems compares this quantity to the reciprocal of the spring constant. Close proximity of circuit components at different voltages can cause the unwanted stray or parasitic forms of this quantity. In a simple circuit with 2 components, resistance times this quantity gives the time constant. Dielectrics are often included in a class of devices in which this quantity equals cross-sectional area times permittivity over distance and arises between 2 parallel plates. For 10 points, same as quantity measured.
Conductivity.
No, sorry. Measured in farads.
Charge?
No, this is capacitance. Toss of 2. A member of this family awarded one monarchy a perpetual right to the royal third on tithes. This family, whose sigil depicted a red bull grazing, rose to prominence with a man who attempted to reconquer Istanbul from the Turks, Calixtus III. A disposition issued by a member of this family to divide the New World was amended in the Treaty of Tordesillas. A member of this family had a third marriage to Alfonso de Este and supposedly owned a hollow ring to administer arsenic. A member of this family supposedly brought 50...
Borgia?
That's right, for 10. All right, bonus for DCC. In one lecture, this author wrote that the magic power of a poem consists in it always being filled with an inner force called duende. For 10 points each, name this author who exemplified duende in his 1933 play about the bride and groom, the first play in his The Royal Trilogy. Answer?
No answer.
This is Garcia Lorca. Lorca's lecture discusses the duende of one of these people called Belmonte. A Lorca poem is titled for being a lament for the death of one of these people who practice a dangerous traditional Spanish sport.
Like bullfighter.
That's right. Lorca's lecture refers to the muse of this poetic rival of Francisco de Quevedo. The 300th anniversary of this culturanismo poet's death inspired Lorca to co-found the Generation of 27. Answer?
It's Borges.
This is Luis de Gongora. 10 points. Toss of 3. It's not in his birth country, but while working in this city, the artist Kanda Bongo Man popularized the Kwasa Kwasa dance as part of its regional Sukos scene. Bagpipe-playing rural immigrants to this city introduced its ball genre of street music. For a 1927 performance in the city, a black artist donned a costume consisting only of a beaded necklace and a skirt made from artificial bananas. A pioneering venue in the city was advertised by an iconic Theophil Steinlein poster featuring a black cat. Posters for another venue in the city often featured a red windmill. Josephine Baker was a star performer.
Paris.
That's right, for 10. And bonus for Hunter. Composers working in the city popularized a namesake grand pause, in which the orchestra would suddenly all cease playing before starting again at loud dynamics. For 10 points each, name the city. The city's court composer Johann Stamitz helped popularize the four-movement symphony.
Sure. Vienna.
The Mannheim. The Mannheim School's other classical-era innovations include doing away with this section of a Baroque orchestra that played chordal progressions and the bass line. Harpsichords and lower strings were often included in this section.
Percussion? No. Percussion.
This is continuo. Other performing innovations at Mannheim include the so-called Mannheim form of this technique, in which musicians play louder and louder up to a given dynamic.
Crescendo.
That's right for 10. Toss 4. In German politics, the salt mining town of Gorleben is a byword for this stuff. An innovative facility for this stuff in Unkalo, Finland will go online in 2024. In 2009, Stephen Chu reiterated that a site for this stuff, once dubbed the most studied real estate on the planet, was not under consideration. In 2013, Governor Jay Inslee announced problems at the largest repository for this stuff in the U.S., in Hartford, Washington, with single-shell containers. As of 2017, TEPCO was generating 400 tons of this stuff per day in its continuing response to a 2011 natural disaster. In 2010, Harry Reid helped cancel a safety study for a facility for storing this stuff in Nevada named Yucca.
Radioactive waste.
That's right.
Yes.
10 points.
This was the first one.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, didn't have the roster set up. All right, bonus. Beyond the original manuscript, no evidence exists for a Spanish-language printing of this text prior to the 1830s. For 10 points each, name this 1815 text that proclaims, "A people that love freedom will in the end be free." This epistle was addressed to a merchant from the titled British colony during its author's exile there. Answer?
Jamestown letter.
The Jamaica letter. The Jamaica letter was written by this great liberator of South America.
Uh-oh.
No.
Answer?
Bolivar.
Yes. Description acceptable. After returning from exile, Bolivar began the conquest of New Granada by performing this action in the Cordillera Oriental. Jose de San Martin's army performed this action to reach and win the Battle of Chacabuco.
March
Yeah.
directed?
Say?
March?
No, sorry, this is Crossing the Andes.
Yeah.
Nice.
We were on toss of 5. This character recites the line, "Tell whoso hath sorrow, grief never shall last," to her father, who responds by recalling an ass telling a bull not to work so hard. A man marries this narrator about 3 years after seeing his wife with a slave. This character talks about an artificial ebony horse in a translation by Antoine Galland. In a translation by Richard Burton, this character tells another character about a diamond-filled valley populated by birds called rocks. This character is assisted by her sister...
Scheherazade?
That's right for 10. Bonus. Whereas low-density ice forms a cubic crystal lattice, high-density ice forms a lattice named for this 2D shape. For 10 points each, name is polygon that names a unit cell that packs atoms at the highest possible density. Benzene's ring forms this 2D shape. Yeah, one of these points occurs for the equilibrium between cubic and hexagonal ice around 1,000 atmospheres and 200 Kelvin. On phase diagrams, these points occur at abrupt endpoints of line segments.
Lagrange?
No,
that's
supercritical.
everything.
No, it's Curie point.
Answer?
Curie point.
Critical points.
Yeah.
Oh.
Thermodynamic critical points occur at a local maximum for this quantity. This quantity is the change in a system's free energy when a molecule changes phases, so it must be equal for two phases in equilibrium.
Gives
Oh,
free
sure.
energy, or maybe not.
I think it's good free energy.
Answer?
It's free energy.
Could be kinetic energy, actually.
Prompt?
Delta G.
No, we want chemical potential here. 10 points.
Oh,
We had good
Next
knowledge
toss-up.
there.
This politician was scolded to be a better man in a series of letters he exchanged with his so-called little dwarf, Julia Sand. As a young lawyer, this politician defended civil rights pioneer Elizabeth Jennings, a black woman thrown off a New York streetcar. This president vetoed a bill sponsored by California's John F. Miller on grounds that it violated the Burlingame Treaty, but ultimately signed a compromised Chinese Exclusion Act into law. About 10% of positions were covered by a law signed by this stalwart president that introduced competitive exams.
Garfield?
No. The Pendleton Civil Service Reform Act. For 10 points, him as president who took office following the assassination of his predecessor James Garfield. That's not. Go for it.
Truman?
No, this is Chester A.
I was gonna say also.
I was, yeah, because he was in the staff.
Toss-up 7.
Terrible.
I knew it wasn't Truman.
This author recalled originally titling a novel The Planet of Inexperience and a section on inexperience in the essay 63 Words. It's not Henry James, but this author remarked on a tendency to write 7-section novels in the 1986 essay collection, The Art of the Novel. Such novels include one with the repeated section titles Lost Letter and The Angels. A novel by this author opens by discussing the French Revolution's possible eternal return. In that novel, a war on Kish is declared by a painter who sometimes wears a bowler hat, Sabina. This author also wrote about Tomasz and Teresa's experience of the Prague Spring. For 10 points, name this author of The Book of Laughter and Forgetting and The Unbearable Lightness of Being.
Kundera?
That is correct. And bonus. Rumors claim that tunnels connect this location with the nearby underground Pentagon of Raven Rock. For 10 points each, in his presidential retreat in Frederick County, Maryland, Jimmy Carter got Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin to agree to accords named for this place in 1978.
Camp David.
Yes. The British equivalent of Camp David is this country estate of the Prime Minister in Buckinghamshire that unofficially names Theresa May's white paper on Brexit. Answer?
No, it's yes.
It's called Checkers. Kirribilli House, another secondary resident of a world leader, has great views of this body of water, spanned by a bridge nicknamed the Coat Hanger. Jorn Utzon designed a building on this body of water resembling ship sails.
Oh, it's, is it just Sydney Harbor? Oh, yeah. Sydney Harbor?
That's right for 20.
Nice.
Toss up 8. Rafe Vaughan Williams included a polka melancholique and a gallop in the third part of his suite for this instrument and small orchestra. The melody for the fourth movement of a concerto for this instrument comes from the German folk song Aren't You the Swan Turner? This instrument was played by Lionel Tertis, as well as the composer of Der Schwanendreher, the virtuoso Paul Hindemith, who premiered William...
Viola.
That's right for 10. Bonus. This artist depicted a trophic ulcer on her foot as it pokes out of a bathtub in the painting What the Water Gave Me. For 10 points each, name is Mexican surrealist who spent the last years at the Casa Azul in a wheelchair after her leg was amputated.
Frida Kahlo?
That's right. Cubist figures with giant feet hold sugarcane in a Wilfredo Lamb painting titled for one of these places. The first painting of these places, created by a naive artist, depicts an animal surprised by a lightning bolt. Answer?
Garden?
No, this is a jungle. A gigantic foot appears below a cactus in Abaporu, a painting by an artist from this country named Tarsila de Amaral. Paul Landowski designed a massive Art Deco statue in this country with outstretched arms.
Brazil. Brazil.
That's right for 20. Toss of 9. During the height of a controversy, this person made a surprise appearance on U2's Zooropa tour. Events surrounding this person led to the title cold case of Norwegian journalist Odd Issengut's 2010 book, Who Shot William Nygaard? Joseph Conrad and Anton Chekhov inspired this person's alias, Joseph Anton. Hitoshi Igarashi was found murdered at Japan's Tsukuba University just a few days after another translator of this person, Ettore Capriolo, was killed in Italy. While giving a speech at New York's Chappaquidda Institute in August 2022, this person was stabbed by Hadi Matar. In 1989,
Salman Rushdie.
that's right, for 10 points. Bonus. Marshall McLuhan's son Eric wrote a book on 10 100-letter words in this novel known as Thunder Words. For 10 points each, name this nearly unreadable novel that loosely follows a man known as Humphrey Chimpton Earwicker, or HCE. This 1939 stream of consciousness novel was inspired by La Scienza Nuova.
Finnegan's Wake.
Finnegan's Wake was the final novel by this Irish author who invented words like yogi bogie box and a verb form of sausage in his novel Ulysses.
Joyce.
Yep. Finnegan's Wake opens with this word, describing a moment past Eve and Adam's back to Howth Castle and environs. This word continues the last sentence of the book, talking about a feature, a way, a loan, a last, a loved, a long.
Let's make up a word.
Answer?
Story Run.
This is River Run, 20 points.
Oh.
Toss up 10. Density perturbations named for the constancy of this quantity are fluctuations in relative energy densities that are contrasted with primordial adiabatic density perturbations. Setting this quantity to 0 and solving for rho in the first Friedmann equation gives the critical density. WMAP's measurement of the density parameter as 1.02 implies this quantity is 0. Negative values of this quantity imply a hyperbolic universe. Gravitational lensing results from an increase in this quantity's magnitude near massive objects that can be analogized to placing a weight on a stretched piece of fabric.
Gravity.
No.
I'm so sorry.
For 10 points, name this geometric quantity whose global value would indicate whether the universe is flat.
Entropy.
No, sorry, this is curvature. And that's the half. So close claim at the half. 80 for DCC and 90 for Hunter.
I couldn't go. You didn't send me out. No, it's not. Can you go out so that Maya can get
I mean, no, I'll go.
Yeah, ending the stream and also having it on delay.
Yeah,
That's
but-
fine.
That means all the good toss-ups are gone.
Alright, so we're on toss-up number 11. Alright, toss-up. This figure curses another to fall before his time and lie unburied on the broad sand. This figure is compared to a deer struck by an arrow and is courted by Larbus. A goddess spreads rumors of a huge and horrible monster after a hailstorm causes this figure to shelter in a cave with a lover while hunting. The phrase Dux Femina Facti describes... yes, that is power. Oh, sorry, let me get the substitution here. So, All right, bonus. This term describes scientific projects like SETI at home that employ volunteers to contribute computing hours for 10 points each. Name this term that describes systems of distinct network computers that operate as a single computer.
Server.
Yeah, I think.
Answer?
Server.
These are distributed. A common type of cyber attack is the distributed denial of this thing, in which a system is rendered unavailable to users by flooding it with bogus requests from a network of computers.
DDoS, what does that stand for?
So it's like an S.
Answer?
Syntax.
Service. DDoS attacks may involve spoofing messages from this protocol onto a LAN, causing users' machines to recognize an attacker as a network host. This protocol's reply contains a MAC address for a requested IP.
HTTP.
Sure.
HTTP.
This is ARP. No points there.
Darn.
Toss-up. I think are best known for promoting this theory used the image of a train's steam whistle to suggest that our mental events are an epiphenomenon with no casual impact. This theory's use in namesake debunking arguments against moral realism is criticized in Thomas Nagel's Mind and Cosmos. This theory is opposed by the mousetrap analogy of Michael Behe, who has been accused of seeking a skyhook by Daniel Dennett. This theory was used to justify laissez-faire politics by the author of Social Statics, Herbert Spencer. The bulldog Thomas Huxley defended this theory.
Evolution.
That's right, for 10. Bonus. In Washington State, members of this religious denomination are specifically excluded from being liable for medical neglect. For 10 points each, name this religious group, whose followers hold that prayer will bring about healing thanks to spiritual perfection. This denomination was founded by Mary Baker Eddy and runs namesake reading rooms.
Christian Science.
That's right. This Canadian-American Pentecostal evangelist staged massive faith healing events. This woman founded the Church of the Foursquare Gospel. Answer?
No answer.
This is Amy Semple McPherson. French Catholics often drink the water of the Grotto of Massabile in this town for its healing properties. The Virgin Mary appeared to Bernadette Soubirous in this town in 1858.
Rounds?
Say it again?
Rounds?
Lords.
Lords.
10 points. Toss-up. The name of the Baluba people from this modern-day country became an epithet in Ireland after Irish troops were ambushed in 1960. A religion founded in this modern-day country uses the Mandombe script that was divinely inspired by Simon Kimbangu. The Shinkolabwe mine in this country was a key source of uranium for the Manhattan Project. During a civil war in this country, UN Secretary General Dag Hammarskjöld was killed. The CIA helped overthrow...
Democratic Republic of the Congo.
That's right, for 10.
Nice.
Bonus. Answer the following about oral history projects for 10 points each. In 2017, Tanya Fincham won an award for a project that interviewed 111 centenarians in this state. This state's official archaeologist, Carrie Stackelbeck, has led efforts to exhume victims of a 1921 event involving shoeshiner Dick Rowland.
Oklahoma.
Sure.
Oklahoma.
Yeah, this person's testimonial of her life and community to Elizabeth Burgos was challenged by David Stoll. This founder of WINAC won the 1992 Nobel Peace Prize for amplifying Quiche Mayan voices during the Guatemalan Civil War.
Malala Yousafzai.
This is Rigoberta Menchú. Studs Terkel's oral history of this period, Hard Times, interviews people ranging from farmers to Alf Landon. The day that began this period is explored in John Galbraith's book, The Great Crash, 1929.
The Great Depression.
20 points. Toss of 14. A story by this author ends with a foul-mouthed woman driving the protagonist to a Greyhound station in her pickup truck and musing on the tidal waterway. In a novel by this author, a group of boys steal a character's keys and demand that she kiss each of them to get them back. The protagonist of a novel by this author explains that her name means hope in one language but sadness in another. A character created by this author...
Machado?
no, sorry.
No. Oh.
Is abandoned by her more sexually mature friend Sally at a carnival, which leads to her being sexually assaulted. A novel by this author is told in vignettes and chronicles a year in the life of Esperanza Cordero after her family moves to the title location. For 10 points, what Chicana author wrote The House on Mango Street?
Cisneros?
That's correct.
The whole clue, yeah. I knew it was House on Main Street.
Bonus. Joseph Heinrich coined this term after noticing most study subjects, such as college students, were psychologically unusual. For 10 points each, give this acronym that refers to the largely American and European populations that are vastly overrepresented in psychological studies, despite only making up about 12% of the world population.
Don't get curious.
Answer? This is weird. Researching a greater variety of these constructs can help address weird bias. Ghost sickness and evil eye are psychological syndromes bound to these constructs, which shape and are shaped by the mind. Answer?
Placebo?
These are cultures. Heinrich argued that weird societies are more impersonal due to stricter norms about these groups. The nuclear type of these groups predominate in Western society.
Families.
That's right for 10. Toss-up. J.S. Woodworth participated in one of these events where Canada's Immigration Act was amended so that British immigrants could be deported. Thousands of University of Washington students were deputized by Mayor Ole Hansen during one of these events in Seattle in 1919. One of these events, coinciding with an Intervision song contest, started after poor treatment of Anna Volontayanovitz at the Lenin shipyards. That event of this type was led by an electrician named Lech Walesa in Gdansk. In 1892, one of these events sparked...
Strike.
That's right.
That's literally all I wanted. Okay.
For
I was
10
like,
points.
it's not revolution. What the hell did I want?
DCC your bonus. This author responded, "My tone is not meant to be obnoxious. I am in a state of shock," to an English professor who argued that her character of the misfit was imaginary. For 10 points each, name the Southern Gothic author of A Good Man is Hard to Find.
O'Connor.
Yep. Paul Ellie accused O'Connor of a habit of bigotry, citing this story in which Mary Grace throws a book at an old woman in a doctor's waiting room. While dying from lupus, O'Connor wrote letters signed by the racist Mrs. Turpin from this story.
That's not the
Answer?
Okay.
No answer.
Revelation. In this O'Connor story that titles the collection it appears in, Julian rides the bus to the YMCA with his bigoted mother, who is attacked after she gives a penny to a young black boy. Answer? Is everything that rises must converge. 10 points.
What a shit story.
Toss up 16. This mathematician proved that the Riemann zeta function of S equals the product over all primes p of the reciprocal of 1 minus p to the negative s in his product formula. This mathematician worked 2,000 years after the other namesake of a theorem that establishes a one-to-one correspondence between even perfect numbers and Mersenne primes. This mathematician found that the Riemann zeta function of 2 equals pi squared over 6, thus solving the Basel problem. This mathematician found that the number of vertices minus edges plus faces for all convex polyhedra equals 2, which is his characteristic. For an points mathematician whose number is the base of the natural logarithm...
Euler.
It is Euler, yes.
Okay.
Bonus. George Washington's dress uniform was once on display at a cabinet of curiosities run by the government office that processed these things. For 10 points each, name these legal constructs, first defined in the U.S. by a 1790 act to promote the progress of useful arts.
What's it called? Like, not relics. Like, what are...
Answer? These are patents. The patent office's curiosities were transferred to what became this organization's National Museum of American History. It publishes Air and Space magazine.
Smithsonian?
Yeah.
Smithsonian.
Yes. John Mercer Brooke received a Confederate patent for one of these objects. One of these objects, designed by Swedish-American inventor John Ericsson, was deployed at a March 9th, 1862 stalemate. Answer?
Telescope.
It was an ironclad. 10 points. Toss-up. People who spend 10 rainy seasons in these locations are given the title of Ajan. Ceremonial namjars and maroon shemdap skirts are types of clothes worn in these locations called kasaya. In addition to being a university, Nalanda evolved from one of these locations designed around an open courtyard called a vihara. One of these locations in Henan developed a form of wushu after a visit by Bodhidharma. People in these locations who undergo upasampada, followed by the patamokha, which includes 4 prohibited defeats like murder and sex. Bhikkhu and bhikkhunis are found in these locations and are known as the sangha. Shalan is an example of, for 10 points, what religious sites where the Eightfold Path is studied by monks?
Like Buddhist temples.
Prompt. That's time.
Monastery?
Prompt.
Buddhist monastery?
Yes, that's
I'm gonna protest.
I was sitting on that.
As much.
I was sitting on
Okay.
that for the whole time.
Buddhist temples should be accepted.
That's wrong.
Alright, 1 second. So that was...
Well, I think it's like a monastery is like where the monks study, and a temple is like,
Monasteries
like
are
where you
separate from the
worship.
temples. Yes, you do not worship at a monastery. You study at a monastery.
Well, I think you kind of, you do, I don't know.
No.
I can see it.
Like what?
Okay, we have that noted for the protest from DCC. For now, Hunter gets this bonus. Isothermal DNA amplification is a useful substitute for this technique in low resource settings. If thermocyclers are not available, for 10 points each, name this lab technique for in vitro DNA replication, the most accurate technique for diagnosing infectious diseases like COVID-19.
PCR.
The simplest isothermal amplification method replaces the PCR melt step with one of these enzymes that forms the replication bubble during cellular DNA synthesis.
Sure.
Or no, this is
Answer.
single-stranded binding protein.
It's helicases. Melt-free isothermal amplification strategies combine a strand-displacing DNA polymerase with an enzyme that performs this process. This process cuts only one strand of the double helix and relieves topological stress in supercoiled plasmids.
Or topoisomerase or single-stranded binding protein.
Answer?
Topoisomerase.
DNA nicking, 10 points.
Sorry, guys.
It's okay. You had good knowledge.
It's like when you
So that was 20 there, so 60 total points in contention with the protest. And right now the score is 180 for Hunter B and 140 for DCC, and we are on toss of 18. This color is used for the breastplate of a Medusa head sticking its tongue out in a front-facing painting titled Pallas Athene. This color dominates a painting in the New Gallery that was restituted to Maria Altman in 2006. A 1907 painting, sometimes titled for this color, was inspired by a mosaic of Empress Theodora and features the title woman wearing a dress filled with eye motifs. A dome of blue in this other color decorates a building designed by Joseph Maria Olbrich that contains the Beethoven frieze. This color dominates the background and dress of the first portrait of Adele Bloch-Bauer. For 10 points, Gustav Klimt paintings such as The Kiss are dominated...
Gold.
Gold is correct.
Nice.
For 10 points.
Who do you
Bonus. These people use a unit of measurement called a poron kusima, which is based on how far a reindeer can move before urinating. For 10 points each, name these people of northern Scandinavia and Russia whose economy traditionally depended on reindeer herding.
Sami? Sami.
Yes. The Sea Sami suffered significantly higher mortality rates during this event than the more isolated mountain Sami. In England, a population collapse following this pandemic contributed to the 1381 Peasants' Revolt.
The plague.
Black plague?
Oh wait, just say plague.
The plague.
Prompt? Or I can take that, yes. Sami demographics in Sweden were affected by mass migration of Sami trying to avoid conscription into this industry in Nasa. This industry was made more efficient by Bartolome de Medina's patio process.
Fish.
Textiles.
Sure. Textiles.
Textiles.
This is silver mining, 20 points.
None
Dang
of us were
nabbit.
thinking it.
Toss of 19. A mutation to metabolize this compound has been the most surprising adaptation in 35 years of the long-term E. coli evolution experiment. Salts of this chelating acid are administered to neutralize stomach acid before a C-section and to alkalinize urine to prevent kidney stones. The only iron-sulfur protein in central metabolism isomerizes this compound through aconitase. Glycolysis is feedback inhibited by this 6-carbon tricarboxylic acid, which is formed when oxyl acetate condenses with acetyl-CoA. Aerobic oxidation of this compound provides...
Citrate.
Yes.
Next.
10 points. Bonus. This dance originally symbolized traveling through the galley of a slave ship and was popularized globally by Julia Edwards. For 10 points each, name this Trinidadian dance in which participants bend and lean to pass under a bar without touching it.
Limbo.
Chubby Checker's Limbo Rock was released after he started a craze for this dance from a Hank Ballard cover. In Pulp Fiction, Mia and Vincent do this dance that involves moving on the balls of the feet.
Oh, is it maybe like the twist? The twist.
That's right. This man arranged Checker's cover of The Twist and helped popularize the jerk dance. This original host of New York's Rockin' Eve was inspired by Philadelphia's integrated rock and roll scene while hosting American Bandstand.
Swing.
No, it's the dude.
Answer.
It's the guy.
Billy.
This is Dick Clark.
Dick Clark. God.
20 points.
Okay.
Nope.
Pulp Fiction.
And last toss-up. This author asked readers to give the writer the benefit of every doubt while judging with the utmost severity. This author described bursting into laughter at a fancy party upon wondering if Tennyson was hummed at luncheon parties before the war, an essay that recounts being escorted out of a library. This author of How Should One Read a Book wrote about being amazed by the sentence, Chloe liked Olivia, in an essay that imagined a Judith Shakespeare. This author used square brackets in the chapter Time Passes to describe the deaths of Andrew and Prue. This Bloomsbury Group author argued that, to write, women need 500 pounds a year and a room of one's own. Madame Poisson is author of To the Lighthouse.
Jackson.
No penalty.
Virginia Woolf.
It is Virginia Woolf.
Oh yeah, Room of One's Own. God, we read a chapter of that. Like 2 pages of it at the beginning.
And bonus.
of the
Answer the
semester.
following about depictions of slavery in ancient Greek philosophy for 10 points each. This man uses his namesake method to lead a slave through a geometry lesson in the dialogue Meno. This sage was sentenced to death for corrupting the youth.
That's Socrates.
Socrates.
This book argues the very fact someone is a slave proves that they ought to be one in its infamous natural slavery argument. This Aristotle text analyzes the governments of the Greek city-states.
Democracy. No. What? Democracy.
It's politics. The lack of care the doctor showed to slaves is used as a metaphor for bad governance in a lengthy Platonic dialogue titled For These Entities. In the Credo, Socrates imagines a conversation with these entities.
Chairs.
Chairs, though.
These are laws, and that is 10 points. So final score is 260 to 140, so protest does not matter. Thank everyone.
Good game.
Good
Good game, guys.
Game.
So we're back here.
Yeah.
And we're still streaming. Okay.
Just covering up your beautiful face.
All right, so we are on round 4 of the 2023 NSC. My name is Mike Bentley. I'll be the moderator this round. We have Northmont A and William Fremd. We also have a sponsor this round, which is Scope. So thank them for their sponsorship. And let's do a quick buzzer check, and then we will get started.
Bro.
Yeah.
Okay, is everyone ready?
Yes.
All right, here we go. Toss up number 1. This city's king Aphitos instituted a policy that fined Spartans for sacking Lepreum. A boy in the city whose parents were still alive would use golden scissors to cut olive branches for a kotinos. The Spartan princess Kyniska gained fame for horses she provided to a tetrithon held in the city. An artwork in the city was repeatedly rubbed with olive oil due to the Altus Grove's marshiness. Phidias was apocryphally murdered after completing that chryselephantine statue in the city. 100 oxen were sacrificed at this city's massive temple of Zeus during events that were revived in the 1890s.
Athens.
No, sorry. By Baron Pierre de Coubertin. For 10 points, name this Peloponnesian city that, with Delphi, hosted part of the Pan-Hellenic Games every 4 years.
Just like Olympia?
Yes, that's
Called?
right.
Nice.
That's what I thought, yeah.
It was gone. I was waiting for you to actually.
Like 90.
I'm not doing it again.
Bonus. This set is the only set whose power set is a singleton. For 10 points each, name this unique set that contains no elements. This set can be denoted with a circle with a slash through it.
No.
Empty set.
That's right. For finite set X with cardinality n, this expression gives the number of elements in the power set of X because determining each element in the power set involves deciding between inclusion and exclusion of each element in X.
It's like raised to.
X, or maybe the X logged in.
No, it's raised to the 2, right? So.
Sure.
Answer?
Square.
No, it's 2 to the power of n.
Oh.
This statement suggests that there are no sets with cardinality between that of the natural numbers and their power set. Paul Cohen developed forcing to show that this statement cannot be proven from the ZFC axioms.
This statement cannot be. Yes.
So Zermelko.
Answer?
You want axiom of choice?
It's the continuum hypothesis.
Sorry,
10 points.
wrong one.
Toss up. Robert Benchley emceed radio performances by a bandleader who played this instrument, backed only by a string quartet and rhythm section on interlude in B-flat. After Chick Webb, a bandleader who played this instrument, recorded a hit version of Edgar Sampson's Stompin' at the Savoy. That bandleader who played this instrument performed Sensation Rag at a landmark concert highlighting jazz's...
Clarinet.
That's right, for power. Bonus. In May 2023, Jordan launched an airstrike in this country that killed the drug kingpin Marai al-Ramthan. For 10 points each, name this Middle Eastern country whose main export is the drug Captagon. It has been ravaged by a civil war that failed to oust Bashar al-Assad.
Yemen.
Syria. Captagon is trafficked onto the global market by this Iran-backed group in Lebanon, led by Secretary General Hassan Nasrallah.
Hezbollah.
That's right. The Assad regime has set up Captagon factories in the homeland of this minority, secretive Shia group in Syria that the Assad family belonged to.
Oh. So like.
Answer?
Sufi.
These are the Alawites, 10 points. Oh, yeah, what was going on there? Sorry, 1 second. Just because... I think maybe I got this set. Yeah, actually, I don't know what's going on here. So it's still finding. we the right team? That's right.
Yeah.
Can we double check this? Yes. Oh, did I not? Sorry. Still says game not found. Can you ping like Harry to understand what's going on here? All right, we'll keep going. Sorry. All right, so we are on question number 3. Is everyone ready?
Yeah.
All right. Froin is used as this species in the Belousov-Zabolnitsky reaction. Calcium and erychromes are used as these species in trace metal analysis because they are worse chelators than EDTA. Chemists use natural anthos. One second. No. As these species. Volumetric analysis adds these chemicals at conventionally imprecise volumes, like 2 drops. By forming a charge transfer complex, starch acts as one of these species when iodine and thiosulfate react. These chemicals first undergo a reaction at the endpoint just past the equivalence point to form a chromophore. A mixture of these molecules, like methyl red and phenolphthalein, is impregnated into paper strips to test a solution's pH. For endpoints, name these chemicals that change color in a titration.
Like indicators?
That's right. Bonus, Ruth E. Carter became the first black woman to win an Oscar in this field with her Afrofuturist designs for Black Panther. For 10 points each, name this field, whose Oscar was won by Edith Head 8 times. Designers in this field for films like 12 Years a Slave pay particular attention to the historical accuracy of what actors wear on screen.
Like costume designers?
That's right. Carter deliberately used bright clothes from sponsor Nike for her costumes for a film by this director. In that film, Radio Raheem carries around a boombox playing Fight the Power.
Spike Lee.
That's right. Carter worked on a 2000 John Singleton film with this title starring Samuel L. Jackson. The title character wears a brown leather coat in a 1971 Gordon Parks film with this title, whose theme was recorded by Isaac Hayes.
Say it.
Shaft.
30 points. All right, sorry, we're just fixing scores. We are moving on to toss-up 4. Toss-up. This denomination hosted a controversial 1883 banquet serving shellfish amongst its community in Cincinnati, Ohio. The Pittsburgh platform in this denomination was championed by Isaac Meyer Wise. This denomination's Gates of Prayer book stresses a concept translated as repair of the world. This denomination's ideologist, Abraham Geiger, favored the idea that a messianic age in favor of a personal messiah. Reconstructionists and this denomination practiced patrilineal descent and performed the bat mitzvah ceremony for girls as part of a relaxed...
Wait. Jewish people?
Prompt.
Hasidic Jews?
No. A relaxed view on halakhic principles. Renoko is in this most populous branch of Judaism in the United States that contrasts with Orthodox and conservative strains because of their progressive views. It's called Reform Judaism.
Say liberal Judaism.
And we're on House 5. A poem about this war declares autumn is desolation in the plot and is set in a place where the brute curiosity of an angel's stare turns you to stone. In a poem set during this war, an old woman leans out of an attic and shouts, "Shoot, if you must, this old gray head, but spare your country's flag."
Revolution.
No. The line, "Row after row with strict impunity," opens an Alan Tate ode to fallen soldiers in this war.
Civil War.
That's right for 10.
Sorry, I know, I wanted to make sure that they were actually for the war.
Bonus. In a poem of this author, an unfortunate lover is glorified as betwixt the flames and waves, thereby becoming the stuff of story. For 10 points each, this poet, who encouraged behaving like amorous birds of prey in his coy mistress.
Marvel.
Yep. In To His Coy Mistress, the speaker aims to devour this concept instead of languishing in its slow, chapped power. The poem also describes this concept's winged chariot hurrying near.
Like hope, love.
Love, I would think.
Love.
As time. In a Marvell poem set in one of these places, the industrious bee computes its time as well as we. In this place, the mind annihilates all that's made in a delicious solitude.
Library.
Forest.
Answer?
Forest.
This is a garden. 10 points. Toss up. Peter Paul Rubens depicted this male figure seated in front of a horse in a painting whose fauna was done by Jan Bruegel the Elder. A parrot appears above this figure, who holds a mountain ash branch on the left side of an engraving by Albert Dürer. This figure covers his face.
Saint Jerome.
No, sorry. While walking below a pink-robed angel in a fresco from the Brancacci Chapel by Masaccio. 12 people float to the right of this figure in a red cloth resembling a human brain in a fresco painted by an artist who likely stood on scaffolding instead of lying on his back. This figure reclines on a green hill and extends his hand towards a nearby finger on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. For 10 points, Michelangelo depicted God reaching out to create what first man?
Adam.
That's right.
Good job.
Bonus. In 2018, YouTuber Electro Boom and Walter Lewin feuded over the nature of this law. For 10 points each, name is law used in a mesh circuit analysis that states that the sum of the voltage differences around a closed loop is zero.
Right?
Kirchhoff's loop rule.
First. Or you can just say loop rule, yeah.
Say
Say it.
Kirchhoff's loop rule.
Yes. Electro Boom criticized Lewin's experiment that claimed to show Kirchhoff's voltage law does not hold in the presence of one of these fields that feature north and south poles.
Magnetic field.
Right,
Or no,
yeah.
just, okay, yeah. Magnetic.
Electro Boom claimed that Lewin's results were due to incorrect use of oscilloscopes, which plot waveforms that are read by these units, the distance between grid lines. The scale of an oscilloscope screen is given in time per these units versus volts per these units.
Volts per like area, like
No, with like distance and grid.
Answer?
I don't know.
where meter.
These are divisions, 20 points.
Okay.
Oh, that actually makes sense.
Toss up. This process is induced in the germarium of Drosophila by the bag of marbles protein, since it only occurs far from the cap cell's niche. Flow cytometry detects cell surface markers called clusters of this process. In Waddington's analogy to a ball rolling down a hill, this process pushes an HSC down either the myeloid or lymphoid lineage. This process can be reversed by reprogramming SOX2 and OCT4, two of the Yamanaka factors.
Like cell differentiation.
That's right for 10.
Nice.
Without CS in any way, shape, or form. But
Bonus, answer the following about stinky cryptids for 10 points each. Cryptozoologists debate the relation between Florida's skunk ape and this ape-like creature from the Pacific Northwest, often conflated with the Yeti.
Bigfoot.
Bigfoot.
No. It wants
No,
an
that makes
animal.
orangutan.
Answer?
No.
Gorilla.
That's Bigfoot. According to legend, a hybrid between a human and this animal snuck onto a San Antonio dance floor, but disappeared in a sulfur cloud. A cryptid partially named for these animals was accused of killing animals with puncture wounds in Puerto Rico.
So what, like a stabs?
Porcupine.
Sure.
Answer?
Porcupine.
These are goats.
Okay.
Cryptids from this country, like the Ani Ani and Capre, mask their awful smell by smoking large amounts of ganja. Aswang are vampires with tube-like tongues that consume embryos in this country's folklore.
No.
That don't
Sure.
that makes sense. but okay.
Jamaica.
Answer?
Cuba.
This is the Philippines, no points there.
Bro.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Toss up number 8. One measure of the health of this sector of the economy uses a composite 10 index consisting of data points such as Boxer and Mixer. An important metric tracking this sector of the economy was developed by the economists Carl Case and Robert Schiller. The median multiple is a measure of affordability in this economic sector. Post-war government subsidies to this sector of the economy were capitalized on by William Levitt. A decline in this sector of the...
Okay, housing.
That's right.
Nice. Oh yeah, love
10.
Yeah, 11.
Nice.
Bruh.
Bonus. Frederick Madden attacked Antonio Panizzi, a rival keeper of these objects at the British Museum, as being peasant-born, foreign, and scheming. 10 points each. Name these objects, many of which were sold by Thomas Jefferson to restock a government institution following the burning of Washington, D.C.
wait,
Well, just
bonds.
bonds.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
Bonds.
What?
Bonds.
These are books.
Bro.
A black woman named Bella de Costa Green convinced J.P. Morgan to open his private library in this city as a museum. 2 stone lions guard the Beaux Art main branch of this city's library on 5th Avenue.
New York.
Yes. Like the Library of Congress, this A British library at the University of Oxford receives a copy of every printed book published in the country.
Do you know?
Oxford Library.
What?
Answer?
The Modern Library of Alexandria.
This is the Bodleian Library. 10 points.
Yeah, I should.
Toss 9. This non-title character hesitates to kill a radiantly beautiful woman until hearing a soul wail. Telegram sent to Amsterdam for this character suddenly changed from good spirits to terrible change for the worse. This MD, DH, DLit, etc., places a wafer of sacramental bread that burns a scar into a woman's forehead, leading him to hypnotize her. This man figures out the identity of the Bloofer lady attacking children, and figures out why another character has shipped boxes of earth. This friend of John Seward and Quincy Morris treats Lucy Westenra by hanging garlic around her room.
Just Van Helsing.
That's right. For
There's
10
like
points.
everything in Van Helsing.
Housing.
And your bonus. Frida and Errol have an illicit relationship in this author's play Statements After an Arrest under the Immorality Act. For 10 points each, name this author who depicted a doomed romance with Ethel Lang in a two-hander play about the lives of brothers Morris and Zachariah under apartheid.
Fugard.
That's right. Around the time Statements premiered, Fugard, John Connie, and Wilson Unshona co-wrote The Island, in which characters perform Antigone, a play by this Greek tragedian of Oedipus Rex.
Sophocles.
Yes. Both statements, and this other play by Fugard, Connie, and Unshona premiered in 1972. Its protagonist dictates a letter to his wife before having his picture taken in a style studio.
I would assume Sizway Bonzi is dead. It's not Master
Say
Hero.
it.
Sizway Bonzi is dead.
30 points.
Good job.
It's fine. You got those guys. Chill.
Toss-up. The leaking of documents from this conflict led to the resignation of Anneli Jäntemäki, Finland's first female prime minister. A 45-minute claim in the September dossier justifying this war was sexed up to be scarier. The Assassin's Gate was an entry point for a protected zone established in this conflict.
Like Bosnian War.
No, sorry. Frederick Kagan's Choosing Victory plan for this conflict was the origin of the troop surge. The Chilcot Inquiry questioned a prime minister's invocation of a special relationship as a pretense for joining this war. In the lead-up to this war, a vial that could hold anthrax was presented to the UN by Colin Powell. Tony Blair's government participated in, for 10 points, one American-led conflict that toppled Saddam Hussein.
The Iraq War?
That's right, yes.
Bro, you took a second there. Oh my god.
Bonus. All the representatives in Colorado's legislature took a bribe to vote down legislation for this of this type for minors. For 10 points each, this type of law applied to the rail industry in the 1916 Adamson Act. A common slogan in support of these laws called for equal time for work, recreation, and rest.
So like, it's like work time limit laws. It's like work hours being shorter laws.
Prompt.
Like hours limitation laws. I don't know.
I'll prompt one more time.
Like just like 8-hour workday.
There you go.
Yeah.
The Colorado 8-hour day law was modeled after one in this state. In the early 20th century, the Smoot hearings concerned whether a senator elected from this state would be allowed to take office.
It's Holly Smoot, but where's that?
Answer?
Yeah, Maryland.
Utah. Albert Parsons co-founded an 8-hour league in this city in the 1870s. A decade later, labor activists were massacred in this city's Haymarket riot.
Oh,
Chicago.
That's right. For 20 points.
it took a while.
That's the half, so close game. Northmont 130, William Fremd 110.
Okay, we're fine, guys.
Yeah, I
Go,
get
We're fine.
We got a second half. Let's go.
those prompts were great.
And for self-defense, I did not.
I'm selling him back.
I got
No, bro. What was
Yes, let's go. Try to get above 15 PPP, guys.
Okay, here we go with toss of 11. New algorithms for this task, titled A Paper Introducing DeepMind's AI System for Discovering New Algorithms. The omega bound associated with this task has gradually decreased by approximately 0.004 since 1990 due to galactic algorithms that generalize the Coppersmith-Winograd algorithm with the laser method. The first algorithm to perform this task with asymptotic runtime better than big O of n cubed was developed by Volker Strassen. This operation reverses LU decomposition by acting on lower and upper objects. For 2D arrays with dimensions m by n and n by p, this common operation returns a 2D array with dimension m by p. For endpoints, name this non-associative operation that yields the product of two matrices.
Is it just matrix multiplication?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good work. Nice work.
CS
Pranav.
math.
Bonus. Answer some questions about strange time signatures in modern classical music for 10 points each. Henry Cowell's Rhythmicana uses the unusual time signature 1-1 in the first two movements, which means every bar is equivalent to one of these notes. These notes are the same length as 4 quarter notes.
Yeah, so
Hold on.
yeah, I was right.
Hold
Okay.
on.
Yeah, let me say it.
1/8 and 2.5/4 are some of the time signatures appearing in the Lord Melbourne movement of this suite. This band suite by Percy Grainger collects 6 English folk songs, such as The Brisk Young Sailor and Hawkstow Grange.
I don't know.
Okay, sea shanties.
This is Lincolnshire Posey. No time signatures appear at all in a Karl-Heinz Stockhausen piece written for this ensemble that was named for the helicopters the performers play inside. That piece was premiered by one of these ensembles named Kronos.
That could be like string quartet, or could it be the quintet, maybe?
I have no idea.
Do you think it's quartet or quintet?
Answer?
Quintet, string quintet.
String quartet.
Bro.
Oh, damn.
Toss-up number 12. One of this author's characters laments falling in love when gray-haired in a story that ends with the statement that the hardest and most complicated part was only just beginning. That character created by this author who called...
Chekhov.
Yes. Because Bonus. A Tennessee court hung one of these animals named Big Mary after they ruled that she had murdered a human in 1916. For 10 points each, name these animals whose Asian species helped put up tents at circuses.
Elephant.
Yeah, elephants.
This elephant was framed as bad after killing a drunken zookeeper who fed her a cigar. In 1903, Thomas Edison's film studio recorded this elephant's execution
Oh my
at
God.
Luna Park.
Oh, wait, what?
I've seen this
I
so
don't know
many
the
times.
name.
Tootsie?
Sure.
Tootsie?
Topsy.
Oh.
In the early 2000s, residents of Assam named several killer elephants after this person. A wedding tape of this person's son, Hamza, was recovered from a safe house he returned to after the death of Benazir Bhutto.
Benazir Bhutto, so
So
Pakistan.
Bhutto in Pakistan, so what's a woman? Malala, probably.
Okay.
Malala?
It's Osama bin Laden. 10%.
Wait, they said she, I thought.
Toss up. Description acceptable. Eric Bloodaxe's conversion to one of these beings causes a thunderous sound heard by Bragi. One poem claims these beings' numbers will seem too few when the wolf comes. Vingolf is home to some of these beings who accompany the gods to the field Vigrir after Gjallarhorn is blown. These people drink milk from the goat Hydrun and eat meat from the resurrecting boar Serimnir, alongside the wolves Gary and Freki and their owner. After their death in battle, these people are...
Valkyries? No.
Hold on. No. These people are chosen by shield maidens and then fight every day for sport and return at night to a hall to feast. Valkyries select for 10 points what beings who train under Odin's service until Ragnarok.
Valhallan warriors.
Yep.
Nice.
You can take that?
What was that main answer line?
Einherjar is the official name.
The milk thing.
Yeah.
Bonus. Protists, named for having these structures separate DNA into micronuclei, which carry the germline but do not express genes, and macronuclei, which do the opposite. For 10 points each, name these structures that grow out of basal bodies on the surface of many eukaryotic cells. They lend their name to the group of protists that include paramecium.
Just flagella.
Sure.
Okay, flagella.
Cilia.
Oh.
Ciliates
no,
contrast with protists
Yeah.
that move around by thrashing these long whip-like organelles.
Flagella.
Yes. Whereas flagellated animal cells use a single posterior flagellum, protists in this model genus have 2 anterior flagella. Species in this photosynthetic genus of pond-dwelling protists have the simplest eyes found in nature.
Oh my god.
I knew it. This came up before.
Sea aliens. What?
Answer?
Sea aliens.
Is our Euglena.
Close, okay.
Toss 14. Walter Burling smuggled seeds of a variety of this crop into the U.S. inside dolls while on a mission from James Wilkinson to alert the Mexican government about the Burr conspiracy. A series of Charles Minard flow maps illustrates how European markets increasingly imported this good from India in the 1860s. William Thayer worked with the Viceroy Saeed Pasha to promote production of this good in Egypt to relieve a so-called famine of it in Lancashire. Beginning...
Cotton.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Muhammad.
Not tenders.
Muhammad.
Good.
Bonus. This politician fell to his knees in repentance in front of Nathan Rappaport's Warsaw Ghetto Uprising Memorial for templates, each named as leader of the SDP, who secured a 1970 agreement with Poland recognizing the Oder-Neisse line as the official border.
So
This chancellor launched the Ostpolitik policy.
Brandt. Brandt.
Yes.
Nice.
Brandt eventually resigned as
Not
chancellor
good.
after his aide Gunter Guillaume was revealed to secretly be an agent for this communist
Stasi.
country's secret police, the Stasi.
Oh, so East Germany. Yeah, East Germany.
Yes.
Nice.
In 1969, Brandt visited this NATO country to meet with President Sunai. West Germany's economic miracle was partly driven by the guest workers from this country, especially after its 1960 and 1971 coups.
1671. So NATO. So it could be like no, it's Turkey. No, still not NATO. It'd be Greece. Turkey.
Answer?
Greece.
What?
Turkey.
That's right.
Oh!
Dude. Thank God for saying two things. Then I let you do it.
30 points. Toss up. An andante section of this piece, scored for strings, centers on the crescendoing rising theme F sharp, B, C sharp. The flute and oboe trade off an E major pentatonic theme in the opening of a section of this piece marked Allegretto Pastorale. Before killing, the villain in Fritz Lang's film M whistles a theme from this piece. This piece of incidental music includes a mazurka depicting the dance of a Bedouin princess. Bassoons and pizzicato cellos begin a theme from this piece that continuously gets louder and faster and depicts its main character, meaning a group of trolls.
In the Hall of the Mountain game.
Prompt, what larger piece is that part of?
Incidental music to Peer Gynt.
No. For 10 points, a Henrik Ibsen play inspired...
Just Peer Gynt Suite.
That's right.
Oh. I guess.
You're fine.
Bonus. The wooden sections of this altarpiece were carved by Nikolaus Hagenauer. For 10 points each, name this altarpiece created for the monastery of St. Anthony by Matthias Grunwald. The sickly, emaciated Christ on the front of this altarpiece references the ergotism of patients who viewed it.
So it's not Gynt.
Answer?
Again,
It's the Eisenheim altarpiece. The George Schaefer collection in Coburg includes Grunwald's painting of this scene. Leonardo's version of this scene differs by seating Jesus and all of his apostles on one side of the table.
Last Supper.
Philip Melanchthon grouped Grunwald with Dürer, and this third artist as being the greatest artist of his time. This fast-working Saxon painted portraits of Martin Luther and the Stag Hunt of Frederick the Wise.
If you think it is.
Van Dyke.
Lucas Cranach, 10 points.
Out of curiosity, what was the answer line? Like the official thing?
Peer Gynt Suite number 1, opus 46, or the first Peer Gynt Suite.
What was
and
it?
then
Just
various-
underlined. Did I need to say Peer Gynt Suite the full thing?
The Peer Gynt were the two underlined parts.
Okay, that's fine.
Wait,
Bro.
then- wait.
You can protest if you want to do, but I don't.
Nah, it's okay. It's fine. I might be wrong.
You're right.
It might not be incidental music.
What does that even mean?
Just let's go.
Okay, so are we proceeding or lodging a protest or what's going on?
We'll just keep
Proceeding.
Okay. Alright, toss up 16. This quantity names a type of material modeled by the Edwards Anderson and Sherrington Kirkpatrick models. Those materials named for this quantity are represented as a lattice of stochastically aligned magnetic dipoles and are called this quantity's glasses. 3 matrices denoted sigma sub k that are used to represent this quantity along coordinate axes are named for Wolfgang Pauli.
Spin.
That's right.
Nice,
Nice.
good buzz.
I was just waiting.
Bonus. Answer the following about the Purusharthas, which are Hinduism's 4 aims of life for 10 points each. The aim of moksha involves escaping this process. Accumulating good karma affects
Reincarnation.
this process in the cycle of samsara.
Reincarnation.
Oh, reincarnation.
Reincarnation.
This aim is the accumulation of wealth and property. Because this aim also applies to good governance and economics, it names a treatise by the Mauryan statesman Coutillia.
Wait, I don't know what it's
I
called.
always forgot the second one. You said for me some, I don't know.
Say it.
Some.
What?
Some.
Artha.
Oh, that's the other one.
The philosopher Vatsyayana argued that this aim of pleasure was compatible with a moral life in a sutra known in the West for its discussion of intimacy and romance.
Comma.
Yeah.
Comma.
That's right.
Woohoo.
20.
Good job.
I forgot Arthur. Oops.
Toss-up 17. This thinker introduced the hypothesis that the world and our memories of the past were created 5 minutes ago. The question, who shaves the barber, summarizes a puzzle this thinker used to illustrate a complication of Gottlob Frege's basic law 5. This thinker imagined an undetectable object orbiting between Earth and Mars in...
Russell.
That's power.
Teapot.
I knew the last line too. I should have listened.
Bonus. After being dunked in water, a character claims to see one of these animals, which prompts another character to grab her foot and kiss it. For 10 points each, these aquatic animals that supposedly swim into
Banana
holes
fish.
and get fat off a certain fruit. These animals title a short story that ends with Seymour Glass abruptly committing suicide.
Banana fish.
Seymour Glass appears in the short story A Perfect Day for Banana Fish, part of this author's 9 stories. He also wrote The Catcher in the Rye.
Salinger.
9 Stories also contains this story, in which Eloise Wengler gets drunk with an old friend from college. The title of this story refers to a memory of Eloise spraining her ankle.
What's?
Raise high the roof beam carpenter.
I think so. Yeah.
Raise high the roof beam carpenter.
Uncle Wiggily in Connecticut.
It's the other one.
20 points. Toss-up 18. The Economist dubbed this city the blob that ate part of its state due to its urban sprawl, which developed despite being the largest U.S. city without formal zoning laws. I.M. Pei designed this city's J.P. Morgan Chase Tower with 5 sides. The largest children's hospital and the M.D. Anderson Cancer Center are part of this city's medical district, which borders Breeze Bayou. The 26-lane Katy Freeway is a...
Houston.
That's right, 10. Bonus. Answer the following about the mother of behavior therapy, Mary Cover-Jones, for 10 points each. Jones's Little Peter experiment helped inspire the concept of desensitization, which was used to treat these mental disorders that involve excessive fear towards an object or event.
Phobias.
Yes. By associating a fear-inducing animal with positive stimulants, the Little Peter experiment aimed to reverse this psychologist's experiment, which induced a phobia in a single infant subject who possibly had hydrocephalus.
Watson.
Yes. Jones conducted a study of this type called the Oakland Growth Study. 2 parallel studies of this type contrasted Harvard graduates with people from disadvantaged Boston neighborhoods.
Case study, naturalistic observation.
Pick one.
Twin study.
This is a longitudinal study. 20 points.
Also makes sense.
Toss up 19. The Schism Edict is sometimes taken as evidence that this ruler expelled thousands of heretics at the Third Council. According to a narrative of this ruler's early reign, they ordered the execution of 99 of their brothers and put...
Ashoka.
Yes.
I sat there laughing for 30 seconds because I knew you all buzzed.
Bonus. This organization's paramilitary offshoot was called the Special Apparatus. For 10 points each, name this organization, whose female offshoot was led by Zainab al-Ghazal. A failed assassination in 1954 led to a crackdown on this organization, during which Saeed Qutb was tortured and executed.
No, it's not Tamil Tigers. That doesn't make sense. So Middle Eastern.
Say it.
Just say
No,
Answer?
Tamil Tigers.
Muslim Brotherhood. Gamal Nasser suppressed the Muslim Brotherhood during his rule of this Arab country.
Oh wait, did you say
Egypt.
Nasser?
Yeah,
Egypt.
The Brotherhood supported the army officials who formed this anti-British nationalist group. This group's coup on January 25th, 1952 replaced King Farouk with Muhammad Naguib.
Wait, so it's just Pakistan, but it's not Muslim Brotherhood. Mujahideen.
Answer?
Mujahideen.
It's the Free Officers Movement. 10 points.
Oh, I do.
Last toss-up. In the story by this author, a woman who names herself after the words beauty and twilight sells people unique words. That story, 2 Words, is narrated by the protagonist of a novel by this author, who moves in with the transgender woman Mimi and relates how gorillas, led by Huberto Naranjo, are filmed by the journalist Rolf Carlet. In this author's debut novel, the French Count Jean de Sattigny...
Allende.
That's right.
Yeah, I couldn't think of 2 words, bro.
So notable. Sad.
Bonus. This author's work Paradox on the Comedian inspired the term staircase wit for when one thinks of a witty comeback, too late. For 10 points each, name this novelist of Rameau's nephew, who co-edited the Encyclopédie with Jean de Rond d'Alembert.
Diderot.
In a Diderot novel, the valet Jacques tells his master about this philosophy, which he illustrates by recounting the death of his brother in a real-life earthquake.
Cook.
I'm so confused.
Answer.
We live in the best of all possible worlds.
It's fatalism. Other 18th century French novels that philosophically interpreted that earthquake include this Voltaire novel, in which Dr. Pangloss tells the title character to look at the earthquake optimistically.
Indeed.
Is that
And that is right for 20 points. That makes the final score 180 for Northmont, 350 for Frem. So the protests are actually no, there was no protests. So even if there was, it doesn't matter. Everyone,
Good game.
For the
I don't want to
record,
get out. We're staying in
bro,
this room.
how many times will this
Yeah,
in
man.
99
think pizza is the perfect food.
No.
It has
It's pretty
cheese.
good.
Like it has vegetables.
I was playing.
Yeah,
There can be 3, 4, and 1. There can be like
All right.
3, 4, and 1s. That's happened
Why don't
before.
we get started on this round? So we are on round 5 of the 2023 PACE NSC. I am Mike Bentley, the moderator of this round. This round, we have a sponsor. It is the Art of Problem Solving, offering math, language arts, and science books and classes in person and online at aops.com. Check out their flyer in the NSC program for more information. Thanks to them for sponsoring. Let's see. So this room we have Hunter B. and William Fremd. Is everyone ready to get started? Am I ready to get started? Yes.
What does Fremd mean?
Okay.
Fremont?
Here we go with.
For Fremont?
What's that?
Nothing.
No, Farm's just a dude. Like donated money.
Oh, I see. Okay, everyone good? Yeah, I updated the streams. I think we're good. Okay, all right, toss one. This character dreads being awakened from the happiest dream after her love interest, whom she had repeatedly called a friend moments before, confesses his feelings. Per the advice of the apothecary Mr. Perry, this character's hypochondriac father avoids parties. This character's jibe at a woman who says more than 3 dull things is criticized by one of the few people who could see faults in her, whom she eventually marries. This resident of Hartfield disastrously dissuades her friend from marrying a farmer in favor...
Emma.
That's right, for 10.
I thought this was the candidate. Sorry.
Bonus. In the German ideology, Karl Marx argued that life is not determined by this phenomenon, but vice versa. For 10 points each, name this phenomenon that in Marxist thought is said to be false when it prevents people from recognizing their true socio-economic position.
Consciousness?
This one. The consciousness.
Answer?
Consciousness.
Yes. This German thinker coined the term false consciousness and co-wrote works like the German ideology and the Communist Manifesto with Marx.
Engels.
That's right. In the 20th century, Marxist Georgi Lukács advanced the concept of reification in a book titled For This Discipline and Class Consciousness. Marx's materialist approach to this discipline rejects its great man theory.
Like leadership? Government.
Answer?
Government.
Is history.
Oh.
20
Oh,
points.
yeah,
That makes
Marx.
sense.
Marxist history is cool.
Toss-up. This country is home to the contemporary vocal ensemble Roomful of Teeth. Jeff Myers won a competition started by a musician from this country who gathered 27 encore pieces from modern composers. Movements like Ciccone and 1726 appear in a 2010 violin concerto from this country, home to the composer of Partita for 8 Voices. This country is home to the composer of Blue Cathedral, Jennifer Higdon. It's not Austria, but the conductor Marin Alsop is from this country, as is a conductor who composed the musical On the Town and organized a televised series of young people's concerts with one of this country's Big Five orchestras. For 9 points.
The USA.
That's right.
Yeah. Buzz.
I should have.
That was literally just Springsteen.
Bonus. Practitioners of this religion search for a life purpose called a Wampeter and embrace a circle of like-minded people called a Karas. For 10 points each, name this religion whose holy texts take the form of calypso songs. The Tabagonian prophet who names this religion described thumbing my nose at you-know-who from Mount McCabe.
What is in the Caribbean?
Like
You
a
sure
Rastafarianism.
This is Baconism. Bacon and the narrator of this novel witness a frozen wasteland from the top of San Lorenzo after Felix Honecker's Ice 9 destroys the world.
Cat's Cradle.
The narrator of Cat's Cradle is a fictionalized version of this author who also depicted himself as Kilgore Trout in books like Slaughterhouse 5.
Vonnegut.
20 points. Toss 3. A tongue-in-cheek paper from Carl Sagan et al. Notes that a spacecraft named for this scientist observed signs strongly suggestive of life on Earth. That spacecraft name for this scientist was troubled by the failed deployment of a high-gain antenna and passed 951 Gaspra in the first ever asteroid flyby. A group of objects named for this scientist will be studied by the JUICE mission and includes an object characterized by its many lineae, which result from tidal heating. The scientist developed a device with a convergent objective lens and a divergent eyepiece lens, allowing him to discover Callisto. For instance, famous astronomer who names the 4 largest moons of Jupiter.
Galileo.
That's right.
Yeah.
I should pause it. Same.
Bonus. Outraged by the British that the British government was sending hundreds of criminals to its American colonies each year, Ben Franklin proposed that the colonists send some of these creatures in return to London. For 10 points each, name these creatures that Franklin also depicted in a print reading Join or Die.
Snakes.
Snakes, yeah.
Snakes.
The Join or Die print was made to support this 1754 initiative by Franklin, which called for the creation of a President General.
What's
Like creation of the U.S.
Federalism.
Yeah.
Answer?
Federalism.
Is the Albany Plan.
Oh.
A coiled rattlesnake with the motto "Do not tread on me" was used on the flag of a military unit from this state. That same unit from this state fought in a conflict that spawned the Supreme Court case of Luther v. Borden.
I think it's Massachusetts, but yeah, Massachusetts.
It's Rhode Island.
Okay.
Oh.
10 points. Puzzle 4. This figure descended to Halima's foster children and split open a boy's chest to wash his heart with water from a golden tray. In the namesake passage, this figure says that the hour shall be when a slave gives birth to her mistress. In that passage, a companion answers this figure's questions, what is faith and what is Isan? This figure appears as a perfectly formed man and blows into the neck of Miriam. Though he does not ride it, this figure summons the heavenly steed Barak for the night journey.
Muhammad.
No, sorry. This figure commands read to an illiterate man before revealing the first verses to the Klotsura in the cave of Hira. For 10 points, name this angel who revealed the Quran.
Jibril.
That's right.
Yeah. Zoned out for
And bonus. The Washoe artist Dat So La Li championed the Degacoup style of creating these objects with small bases and a wide middle. For 10 points each, name these containers. Created with reed or willow by Native American weavers, bamboo was sometimes used to create wicker examples of these objects.
basket.
Navajo artisans use a 2-knot or 3-dot style in this technique in which fiber is wrapped together then stitched. The Mongolan people created pottery through this technique in which rings of clay are placed atop each other.
Coil.
Coil.
Yep. People of this ethnicity use sedge grass to weave kete baskets. Gottfried Lindauer's portraits of people of this ethnicity depict the tattoo art of Ta Moko on their faces.
Nigerian, I'm not sure.
Answer?
Yoruba.
This is Maori. 20 points.
Hmm.
Puzzle 5. Description acceptable. A man most famous for this activity deceived a young Minnick Wallace and seized much of the Cape York meteorite in 1894. An Italian pilot best known for helping with this activity was blamed for the death of 17 companions and was a pilot of the Norga dirigible. A Nobel Prize-winning zoologist who first gained fame with this activity founded an international office for refugees and lends his name to the Nansen passport. A man in the heroic era of this activity was celebrated for rescuing men stranded on Elephant Island after the endurance
Exploration
prompt.
of Antarctica.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
10 points. Bonus. 2 September 2021 papers from the LHCb collaboration announced the discovery of a particle named for containing 2 particles with this flavor. 10 points each. In this particle flavor found in all D mesons, the only positively charged particle in the second generation of matter has this flavor.
So second, so top. Okay. No, straight.
Answer. Charm. The newly discovered particle is a tetra, one of these particles. The flavors of these matter particles include up, down, charm, and strange.
Quark.
This particle, the most common form of carbonium, consists of a charm quark and a charm antiquark. This particle's name comes from both Burton Richter and Samuel Ting, who discovered it independently.
So K meson. So kaon.
This is the J/Psi meson.
Here we go.
10 points.
Yeah.
Toss-up 6. The speaker of a poem meets one of these animals, which sets its traps in the midst of dreams and is a prince named Berserk. In another poem, the shadow of one of these animals crosses barbaric glass and traces an indecipherable cause.
Blackbird.
Yes, that's power.
Ah,
Good
nice.
boy. Was that yesterday?
Bonus. The 10th and current king of this name promoted his pet poodle Fufu to the rank of Air Chief Marshal for 10 points each. Give this regnal name shared by 10 kings of the Chakri dynasty. The 5th king of this regnal name, Chula Longkorn, ensured the independence of Siam.
Rama.
That's me.
Rama V abolished slavery in this Southeast Asian country. The military dictator Phibun changed this country's name from Siam.
Is it Thailand? Is Thailand right?
Yeah.
Thailand.
Yes.
Yeah.
The Chakri dynasty came to power after its founder Rama I deposed this great Thai king. This king reconquered Ayutthaya from the Burmese and reunified Siam around the new capital of Thonburi.
Thoughts. Jayavarman III.
Sure.
Jayavarman III.
It's Taxon the Great, 20 points.
Okay.
How do you spell that?
Taksin. Toss-up 7. Depictions of these things containing 1,000-spoke wheels were inspired by the Buddha's second discourse. According to legend, King Valagamba discovered one of these things that is surrounded by jewels. Examples of these things from Achualinca in Nicaragua and Laetoli south of the Olduvai Gorge are preserved in volcanic ash. In the Ramayana, Ravana lives atop a mountain whose peak has one of these things left by Shiva, the Buddha, or Adam, and is called the Sri Pada. Ichnites are fossils that contain these things in trackways and depict their ridge patterns. Because of wet cement trails, these things from celebrities...
Footprints.
That's right.
So
Bro.
10.
Yeah, I should have.
Bonus. The 11th edition of a dictionary in this language is praised for cutting the language down to the bone by Syme. For 10 points each in this language, the source of words like double plus ungood, thought crime, and double think.
What's it called? Newspeak?
Is that Newspeak?
Yeah.
Yeah, Newspeak.
Newspeak.
This author of the politics of the English language created Newspeak for his novel 1984.
Orwell.
This Newspeak word refers to an individual who has been vaporized or removed from existence because they were caught perpetuating thought crimes.
What?
Unwith, you read this, didn't you?
Yeah, I read it, but like I didn't read it.
Answer?
No.
20 points for reading but not reading.
Wait, what is?
Sorry. Unperson was the answer.
Oh,
true. One person. My least favorite type of one.
Toss bait. Ricky Greenwald encouraged people experiencing this phenomenon to imagine movies in progressive counting. This phenomenon arises from views of the world being benevolent and meaningful being disrupted in Ronnie Jana Bowman's shattered assumptions theory. Francine Shapiro instructed people with this phenomenon to wiggle their hands or perform rapid eye movements. Bessel van der Kolk's book, The Body Keeps a Score, describes how this psychological phenomenon causes a disorder whose sufferers compartmentalize and exhibit a 1,000-yard stare.
Dissociation.
1 second. No. Alternative identities in dissociative identity disorder are defenses against this phenomenon in childhood. For 10 points, triggers bring up what psychological response to a negative event that is the T in PTSD.
Trauma.
Yes.
Would PTSD have been accepted?
Promptable before mentioned. Bonus. The La Ziata is a lie-telling competition along the banks of this river, whose old name of Zelenika refers to its rich green color. For 10 points each, name this river that passes through Visegrad, where it is crossed by the Mehmed Pasa Sokolovich Bridge at the center of a 1945 novel.
The Drina. The Drina.
The Drina
Nice.
separates Serbia and this other country, partially named for the southern region of Herzegovina.
Bosnia.
The Drina flows through the Sudjeska National Park, a hotspot for a goat-like relative of these animals called the Shami. The Nyala and Impala are species of these animals that have spiral horns and are native to Africa.
What is it like? It's not a
Impala?
goat.
Yeah.
Impala's like the prancing thing. It's not a gazelle.
Answer?
Yeah, it can be
Impala.
That's
They said-
the impala in the
No,
question.
antelopes. 20
Oh,
points.
yeah, it's the prancing thing. Antelope. That makes sense.
Toss of 9. People with this occupation, called the Shorn ones, painted half their head blue and half yellow. People with this occupation wore layers of quilted cotton soaked in brine, known as ikkaquipili, and used flat wooden objects embedded with obsidian pieces, known as makwahuitl. Two groups of people with this occupation distinguish themselves by wearing either eagle feathers or a jaguar skin. People of this occupation participated in ritual flowery events that partly...
Aztec warriors.
Yes,
Nice.
Is that 20 or
10 points. Bonus. This composer used an arch form in his string quartet number 5 and included a 4 plus 3 plus 2 over 4 plus 3 plus 2, 8 time signature commonly used in Bulgarian folk music, and it's scarso. For 10 points each, name this composer, who had two bassoons enter playing a minor sixth part to begin the game of pairs movement of a concerto.
Is this Bartok?
Okay.
Bartok?
Good job.
Instructed the players to use his namesake's snap form of this technique in his fourth string quartet. This technique involves players plucking the string.
Pizzicato. Pizzicato.
The
Nice.
xylophone plays a rhythm following the Fibonacci sequence to open the third movement of a Bartok piece written for an ensemble that includes this keyboard instrument. This instrument also plays the opening melody G, E, G, F sharp, D sharp, E in another piece.
What's like, so it's either the synthesizer or the one that starts with the T.
Harpsichord.
Or no.
Synthesizer?
Answer?
Sure.
It's
Synth.
synthesizer.
Celesta,
Okay, what is that?
20 points. And toss 10. Petroleum engineers plot the log of this quantity against 1 over Fahrenheit temperature to form a straight line on a Cox chart. Cavitation occurs in a vacuum pump when the static head falls below this value. In formulas, an asterisk or the superscript SAT specifies this quantity, which multiplies mole fraction.
Fugacity.
No.
Here we go. Happens.
X to give the fugacity of an ideal solution. Replacing K in the Van Hoff equation with this quantity gives the Clausius-Clapeyron equation. This quantity is a colligative property for mixtures of volatile solvents according to Rolt's law. This quantity increases from 3 to 101.3 kiloparsecs when water is heated from room temperature to 100 degrees Celsius. It points in is pressure of the gas in equilibrium with a liquid.
Vapor pressure.
That's correct. Bonus for Hunter. A proposed approach to solar radiation management would thin these clouds by injecting them with bismuth triiodide. For 10 points each, name these wispy clouds found at high altitudes, which, unlike cumulus clouds, trap more heat than they reflect.
Cirrus.
Yes. Thinning cirrus clouds would widen this interval of infrared radiation wavelength that transmits through the atmosphere. This interval contains wavelengths between 8 and 12 micrometers between the absorption bands of water and CO2.
He said, did he mention infrared already?
Answer?
Infrared.
No. This is the infrared window. Solar geoengineers are investigating ways to whiten lower altitude marine clouds to increase the Earth's value for this dimensionless measurement of a surface's reflectance.
Samuel.
Albedo.
That's right for 20 points.
Yay.
And that is the half. Score of Hunter 90, William Friend 200.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Keep going.
Good job.
Oh, I guess not.
Why
Okay.
is
Sure.
vibrating there?
Sorry.
Bro, the Fugacity.
Why are you so
Alright, here we go with toss-up 11. Alright. One common design for the interior of this type of building stems from an action plan by Robert Propst. 43 miles of Pyrex glass tubing was used for a curvy one of these buildings in Racine, Wisconsin, commissioned by H.F. Johnson from Frank Lloyd Wright.
Like a workplace?
Prompt.
What? Like an office building?
Yep, power.
Good one.
Okay.
Bonus. This author's frequent translator, Mabel Lee, translated their story collection Buying a Fishing Rod for My Grandfather for 10 points each. Name this author, who won the 2000 Nobel Prize for Literature shortly after the publication of the English translation of their novel about I, who is wrongly diagnosed with cancer.
What? Oh, Owe?
Sure.
Owe?
As Gao. Though he later started using French, Gao Xingjian was the first
Gao.
winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature to mainly use this language, which was also used by the later Nobel winner Mo Yan.
Chinese.
Yeah. Although
It's okay.
she was born in the U.S., this 1938 Literature Nobel winner grew up in China, which inspired her novel about Wang Lung and Olan.
Buck.
20 points.
Sorry.
It's okay, man. You're good.
Toss of 12. An urban legend states that a symbol of this god highlights the pineal gland when superimposed over a picture of the brain. The Festival of Victory was held annually to honor this deity at Edfu, which was the second most prominent cult site dedicated to this deity after Nekhen. This god's 4 children were depicted on...
Horus.
Its power.
It's the buzzer. I'm telling you.
Bonus. Muawiyah, the first's army, supposedly sold the remnants of this structure to a Jewish merchant in Edessa, thus fulfilling a dream of Nebuchadnezzar for 10 points each. Name the structure, created from reforged bronze swords after a failed siege by Demetrius I. Cares of Lindos built this structure.
What are they?
No, it's. I don't think so.
Ishtar
Library
Gate.
of Babylon.
Answer.
Ishtar Gate.
This is the Colossus of Rhodes. After an earthquake, the Rhodians rejected the offer of a ruler of this name to repair the Colossus. A member of the Diadochi with this name stole Alexander the Great's body and interred it in Alexandria.
Oh my god.
I thought it was
name.
Alexander, I don't know.
Wait, give me the
Seleucus.
Answer?
Yeah, sure, Seleucus.
Ptolemy.
Oh.
The Ptolemaic dynasty controlled this other wonder of the ancient world, which was the tallest man-made structure for over 3 millennia. This structure was built for the Old Kingdom pharaoh Khufu.
Wait, is it just a? It's just a pyramid.
Bro,
right? Is it
Pyramid
a
of
lighthouse?
Giza.
Yeah, pyramids of Giza.
Prompt.
Great pyramid.
Great
The
pyramid.
Great
Yeah,
Pyramid.
great.
Okay, good job.
10
The
points.
pyramid.
Toss of 13. This country's national anthem, Land of My Fathers, proclaims, "May the language endure forever," a reference to the knots placed around the necks of school children who dared speak its traditional language. In the 12th century, Prince Madoc supposedly sailed from this country to present-day Alabama. A man known as the last ruler of this country signed the Treaty of Aberconwy and died at Blyth. This country was governed by the Council of the Marches after it was conquered by a king also known as the Hammer of the Scots. A ruler of this country...
It's like Wales?
That's right.
Nice.
Why do I?
Where's the power for that one?
Doesn't matter.
Marches.
Oh.
Bonus. This poet wrote, "I keep in mind that magic moment to open a love poem addressed to Anna Kern for 10 points each. Name this Russian poet who left that poem on a piece of paper and a copy of his long poem, Eugene Onegin."
Pushkin.
At age 15, Pushkin wrote a poem lamenting both the end of summer and a lost love with this first name. In War and Peace, a woman with this first name eventually marries Pierre Brezikov after he
Natasha?
leaves Princess Helene.
Natasha.
Say it again?
Natasha.
I don't have that. I have Natasha.
Okay.
Pushkin's death, which resulted from accusations that his wife had taken a lover, inspired this author's poem, Death of the Poet.
Lermontov.
A novel by this author itself depicts a deadly duel between
Yeah.
Brzezinski and Petchorin.
Lermontov.
20 points.
Why do you guys say
I thought it was Natasha.
This is fine.
There's also Natalia and some other ones, but
Oh.
not Natasha. So we're on toss of 14. This story opens A World in Decay, the first section of J. Rubin's Penguin Classics translation of 18 of its author's stories. This story's protagonist notices a cricket perched on some crimson lacquer and is bothered by a pimple on his cheek while he is told about a woman who pretended to sell dried fish.
Rashomon.
Let's go.
Yeah. Okay.
Who? Rashomon by Hutagawa.
Bonus. Answer the following about the father of slapstick comedy, Fred Carno, for 10 points each. In music hall routines, Carno popularized a gag in which a creamy variety of this food was slapped or thrown onto
Pie.
someone's face.
Pie.
This duo, one of whom was an understudy of Carno, threw over 3,000 pies in a scene from the film The Battle of the Century. The Cuckoo Song introduced this bowler hat-wearing duo.
What? Abbott and Costello. I don't know.
What?
Abbott and Costello.
That makes
I don't
sense.
know.
Abbott and Costello.
Laurel and Hardy.
Okay.
A British comedy club named for these animals emerged from burned World War II airmen singing the satirical song Fred Carno's Army. A Sirventi performs mock bullfights with these small animals before they are served in dishes like koi chatado in the Andes.
Guinea pigs.
Okay, guinea pigs.
20 points.
Oh, we heard about that.
True.
What?
Español.
Yum.
Plus 15. Sarcoproxylic species feed on the remains of these organisms. Specialists, natural enemies of these organisms, stabilize communities containing many species of them in the Jansen-Connell hypothesis. These organisms only reproduce after a disturbance in the most common example of fire-mediated serotiny. The final sears and the climax community are dominated by these organisms at the highest stratozone at the end of ecological succession. These organisms form communities called stands. The emergent layer emerges above these organisms, which cannot live north of a line of latitude or above a line...
Trees.
That's right for 10.
Oh, true.
Nice buzz.
Tree.
Alright, bonus. Stephen C. Johnson created a portable compiler for this language at Bell Labs. For 10 points each, name this language created by Dennis Ritchie at Bell Labs. An object-oriented successor to this language appended ++ to its name.
C.
C.
Object-oriented programming can be emulated in C with these features that, like classes, allow any number of user-specified memory variables to be accessed via a single pointer.
The functions.
Okay, I don't.
No, that doesn't make sense.
Objects. Yes.
Answer?
Functions.
They're structs.
Yeah.
C lacks garbage collection, so programmers must eventually perform this action on variables declared via pointers via the free function.
Clear.
In C++, a function named for this action is roughly the opposite of new.
Isn't it clear?
Okay, sure. Clear.
This is deallocation.
Okay.
Paste CS.
Where's the machine?
I don't know anything about C. I've never coded in C in my life, so.
Code in C, you get a C.
Yeah. Toss up 16. This poet described a boy's sisters tending to his forehead-itching red torments in his poem The Lice Searchers. This poet described one of the title things as a black velvety jacket of brilliant flies in a poem that...
Rainbow.
Yes, it's power.
Which poem? Season poem?
No, that's vowels.
Bonus. In one koan, the sixth patriarch of this religion, Huang Nung, interrupts a debate over whether a flag or the wind is moving. For 10 points each in this branch of Mahayana Buddhism that emphasizes meditation and satori, or enlightenment.
Oh, Zen.
Dogen
Zen.
introduced
Zen.
this Buddhism school to Japan.
Zen.
Huneg achieved enlightenment after hearing this sutra, a dialogue between Subhuti and the Buddha that compares life to a flickering lamp, a phantom, and a dream. The oldest surviving printed book is a copy of this sutra.
Lotus.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Lotus, right? Yeah.
Wait, sure. It feels wrong.
Or it's...
Lotus.
Diamond.
Yeah.
The
I'm sorry.
Platform Sutra contains Huinig's stanzas comparing the mind to this object. The diamond throne sits below this object, where Mara attempted to break the Buddha's 7 weeks of meditation.
The tree.
The Bodhi tree.
The Bodhi
It's just
tree.
a Bodhi tree.
Yes,
Yeah.
20.
Or tree concept.
Sorry, I knew diamond. I didn't say it. I should have.
It's
Plus
okay.
17. Lawyers for the defendant in this case argued that a forcible confiscation of his reputation had occurred. 5 years before this case, Louis Martinet founded a citizens committee to test the constitutionality of the law at its center. A random thought on this case by then law clerk William Rehnquist asserted that this decision in this case was right and should be reaffirmed. A justice in this case, who wrote that the humblest is the peer to the most powerful, sided with lawyer Albion Tourget. The great dissenter John Marshall Harlan argued in this case that our Constitution is colorblind.
Got it.
Plus C.V. Ferguson.
That's right.
Yeah.
I love just sitting there.
It's okay.
Bonus. When asked to describe what the second act of this ballet was about, its choreographer supposedly said, it's about 20 minutes. For 10 points each, name this plotless ballet set to music by Gabriel Fauré, Igor Stravinsky, and Pyotr Tchaikovsky that portrays the historical development of ballet.
What?
Okay. No.
Answer. This is Jules.
Okay.
Jules was choreographed by the Georgian George Balanchine, who studied ballet in this country, home to the Mariinsky and Bolshoi theaters, before he moved to co-found the New York City Ballet.
It's just Russia?
Yeah.
Okay, Russia.
Balanchine's restaging of this ballet premiered with Osage dancer Maria Tallchief in the title role. In this ballet, the title figure performs an infernal dance to protect Prince
Firebird.
Ivan.
That's what I was thinking.
Firebird.
20 points.
Because Inferno is fire.
Toss of 18. In 2016, this politician was barricaded in the headquarters of a steelworkers union instead of being arrested for accepting a luxury apartment from the construction company OAS. Upon election, this leader's mass repeals of a of decrees have included stopping the privatization of Kuheos. Sergio Moro banned this politician from running for office in 2018, as described in a book by Glenn Greenwald. This leader's Workers' Party was hurt in 2018 elections by corruption investigations.
Lula.
That's right.
Nice.
10 points.
Marcos for a while. Oh, wasn't it?
Bonus, EDTA detaches adherent cells from a culture plate by chelating metals required by these proteins for 10 points each. Name these transmembrane proteins that attach cells to the extracellular matrix. They are named as ordered pairs of their alpha and beta chains, such as alpha 1, beta 1.
Sorry, guys, I forgot what adherence?
Adherence.
Maybe.
These are integrins. 2 answers required. EDTA chelates these 2 divalent metals required by integrins. One is a cofactor in chlorophyll, and the other is a second messenger in cells.
Calcium and...
Answer?
Calcium and copper.
Calcium and magnesium. In vitro, EDTA detaches integrins from this major structural protein, the main component of the extracellular matrix, and the most common protein found in connective tissue. Answer?
Collagen?
That's right. 10.
Nice.
Ooh. Good.
Okay.
Plus 19. The first observation of injection locking was in 2 of these devices. For these devices, the airy condition can be approximately satisfied by deadbeat escapements. A classic example of a control system with a cart pole apparatus involves maintaining the stability of an inverted one of these devices. Harmonographs draw Lissajous curves from the motion of these devices. Angular velocity is proportional to the sine of latitude in a type of these devices that provided the first evidence of Earth's rotation. The small angle approximation equals 2 pi.
Pendulum?
That's right for 10.
Nice.
Happens.
Bonus. Answer the following about Pope Paul IV's restrictions on Jews for 10 points each. Jews in the Papal States were forced to wear a hat of this color. It's not black, but the Nazis forced Jews to wear a star of this color on a badge.
Yellow.
That's right. Paul believed that this French disease was a Jewish plot. In the 16th century, the Italian surgeon Gaspare Tagliacozzi supposedly invented an operation to replace noses lost by sufferers of this disease. Give the modern name. Answer?
Leprosy.
Syphilis. Paul's bull Cum Nimus Absurdum restricted Jews to a trade name for these items and bones. In the UK, low-status workers would gather this material for recycling at shoddy factories.
Copper?
Something in
Answer?
flesh.
These are rags.
Okay.
Oh,
10 points.
Yeah.
And last toss-ups. This painting inspired a different painting whose fragments were reassembled by Edgar Degas and are currently held by London's National Gallery. Critics have connected the dimple in the outstretched right palm of this painting's central figure to the stigmata of Christ.
The 3rd of May, 1808.
That's power.
Good buzz.
it's not the article.
Bonus. Daphnis, a man with this profession, is blinded for being unfaithful and falls off a cliff, where a spring emerges and he is taken to heaven. For 10 points each in his profession, most of the characters in Virgil's eclogues, like Corydon, have this profession, whose patron is Pan.
Pan.
What? Like forest thing? Hunter
Satyr.
maybe.
Yeah.
Answer?
Hunter?
Shepherds.
Oh,
The
yeah.
shepherd Endymion is made to forever perform this action on Mount Latmus, where he is watched by the moon goddess Selene. Gates of horn and ivory are outside the residence of a god of this action.
Sleep, right? That makes sense, right? Wait. Sleep?
Yeah. A depiction of this Greek god as a shepherd is inspired by a tale where he saved a city from a plague by running around its walls carrying a lamb. This father of Daphnis wears winged sandals and carries a catechus.
Hermes?
Yes. Alright, that is the final toss-up. The final score is 130 for Hunter B, 470 for William Fremd, and let's stick around and confirm our work.
Yep, good game.
Good game.
Uh,